So, the iPhone 8 is getting announced next week, and I have something pretty interesting to show you. So I have a bunch of iPhone 8 cases, quite a few iPhone 8 cases to show you. So yeah, in this video, let's take a look at all these iPhone 8 cases, see how they fit on my two iPhone 8 models. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty interesting video. So grab some snacks, such as popcorn, or some nuts, and enjoy. Okay, so first off, I just want to talk about these two iPhone 8 models a bit. So both of these are actually based on the actual dimensions for the iPhone 8. Now, I've actually showed you both in two separate videos. So in case you want to see a more in-depth video on these, the link for both of these videos is in the description. But yeah, basically these two have exactly the same height. They also have exactly the same width and exactly the same button positioning as on the iPhone 8. Now, the white iPhone 8 model also has the same thickness as the iPhone 8, so at around 7.57mm thick, while the black iPhone is a bit thinner at around 7.2mm thick. Okay, so first off, we have this black case from Yesgo, and this is actually a pretty nice looking case. So it's quite simplistic. It doesn't have any design quirks or anything, outstanding, anything special. And as you can see, we have a fairly large camera cutout on the back for that vertical dual camera module. And this one also comes with a cutout for the Apple logo, which, by the way, a few sources have said that it might be because of that Touch ID being embedded into the Apple logo after all. Now, another interesting thing on this case is that long power button cutout for the power button. So this is a bit interesting. So I believe that the reason for this longer power button on the iPhone 8 and the cases was because Touch ID would be implemented into the power button. However, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Also, on most of these cases, there is no cutout for the power button at all. So it's just an actual button instead of, an empty space, which would be required for actual Touch ID. Now, of course, that some of these cases can be wrong, since there's no actual way to tell if the power button is going to include Touch ID by just looking at the dimensions and the button placement, which is basically what the case companies have made before designing the cases. But yeah, overall, this is a pretty good case. It's also a bit rigid, so it's definitely not made out of silicone, but a fairly hard but slightly flexible plastic instead. We then have two cutouts on the bottom for the speakers and one cutout for the lighting port, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So the interior is also fairly simple, with no padding or any soft material like you would have on something like the Apple leather cases or some other silicone cases. Next up, we have this bright red case, which, same as with the previous case, this one actually fits perfectly on the white model, and it almost fits perfectly on the black one, since yeah, this one is indeed a bit thinner. And overall, this case seems very, very tough. So it comes in two layers. So one of them is medium hardness, so to say. So this is a silicone layer. And then the second one is this plastic layer, which actually seems to be very durable. Then on the back, we have the same cutouts as on the previous one, but these ones actually seem to be a bit larger. So you can definitely tell how much free space there is around the camera and around the Apple logo. But I actually think that this is a pretty good idea, because especially around the camera, you do need a bit more space, because if you don't have enough room, when you take the photo with a flash, the flash is just going to bounce back. And then we also have a few more cases which have a very similar design to the red one, so just in a different color. So we have this blue one, which is not really blue, so this is like a, I don't know, dark purple, or I don't know, let me know in the comments which color this is, because, I'm actually colorblind. No, not really. And then we have this one in black. But yeah, other than that, all these three cases look very, very similar. And then the interior is also quite nice with this dotted padding, which actually feels pretty soft to the touch, much better than the first case, by the way. Next up, we have this transparent case, and this one actually looks very, very good in person. But what I really don't like about this one is just how soft the silicone is. If the first one had sort of like a very hard silicone, this one is just way, way too soft. And I can say the same thing about the sides. So you would expect these to be made out of some hard plastic or metal, but even the sides are made out of a very soft plastic, which is bendable, by the way. But yeah, this thing is very, very soft. I mean, you do need some soft silicone around the phone to basically absorb any impact damage, but you should also have a much harder shell to protect the phone and obviously the case from any nicks when you drop it, which, I mean, this one doesn't. But hey, at least this is the first case, the first iPhone 8 case that we've seen with the transparent back. That actually looks pretty nice. Next up, we have this black one, which is actually my favorite one so far. So this one is made out of a really soft to the touch plastic, but it's also quite durable. So you can actually take the back cover off, by the way, and you can see that this one, same as with the red one, it's actually made out of a soft silicone shell, and then you have a hard plastic cover on top of it. I would have honestly loved if this hard case actually covered the edges rather than just a small portion on the back, since that's where you're most likely to drop your phone. But nonetheless, it actually looks and feels really, really good. And it's also a fairly thin case when compared to the previous ones. So yeah, I actually love this one. And finally, we have this rather interesting one. So this one is very similar to the transparent silicone case that I showed you before. So it comes with this plastic frame, which is actually very soft to the touch. And then you also have this silicone shell, which by the way is actually much harder than the transparent silicone one. Now the case also comes with this indented pattern on the back. It looks quite cool, and it's also quite nice to the touch. But yeah, as you can see, dirt will easily get into these lines. And if you don't wash this like regularly, then you know it's not just going to be the case for you, because yeah, it looks good, but it's really not that practical just because of the dirt. So something interesting that I've noticed in all of these cases would be the fairly large camera cutout, which is now vertical, by the way, and then also that fairly large Apple logo cutout on some of the cases, and then also that long power button, which we've already seen pretty much everywhere, from the schematics to the mockups and now the cases. So the iPhone 8 is going to come with a longer power button, which is most likely not going to include Touch ID, by the way. But speaking of this, we've actually had a very interesting leaked video. I know that this is basically a video about cases, but I just want to mention this one quick leak. So this was posted on Weibo, and it was found by /leaks, and it basically shows an assembly line worker testing Touch ID on a presumed iPhone 8. But if I actually slow this down, you can see that there's actually no fingerprint reader on the back at all. Instead, all he seems to be doing is actually touching the Apple logo on the back, and this one actually seems to recognize his fingerprint, or at least some diagnostics and data are displayed on the monitor. And that would actually be pretty interesting to see. Now, I really hope that this is indeed the case. Haha, get it? This is okay. So yeah, a fingerprint reader embedded into the Apple logo on the back would be a lot more useful, and it would make a lot more sense than Apple just removing, you know, Touch ID like completely and replacing it with Face ID. But yeah, probably we'll just see Face ID. Let me know in the comments which implementation would you prefer seeing: no Touch ID at all and being replaced with Face ID, or Touch ID on the side on the power button, or Touch ID on the back in the Apple logo. I would probably choose Touch ID on the side in the power button, but yeah, let me know in the comments which one would you prefer. But there you go, a first look at some of the first iPhone 8 cases. So if you're interested in any of these, I've actually left the link for some of these in the description down below. Other than that, feel free to subscribe if you want to see more interesting in-depth videos like this one. And then also don't forget to enable notifications by simply tapping on that bell icon so that you're notified as soon as I upload a brand new epic video. Feel free to give this video a like if you have enjoyed it, to let me know. And then also let me know in the comments which case was your favorite one, and also what feature are you most excited for on the iPhone 8. Now, speaking of the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 7s, which both are going to be announced next week, by the way, they might not be called the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 7s, but the iPhone 8 Plus instead of the iPhone 7s, which is a bit weird, and then the iPhone Edition instead of the iPhone 8. But yeah, regardless, if you want to know more about all the iPhones that are going to be announced in next week, basically, I've done 2 really in-depth final leaks and rumors episodes on both. So iPhone 8 and the iPhone 7s, even if they're going to have different names. But yeah, this was pretty much it. So yeah, thank you for watching until the end. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Son of Tech, signing out. Cheers.